Okay, amazing. We are live. Welcome, everyone. Amazing to have you here. Thank you, Xavier, for being here today with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a big pleasure, especially because you've been the very, very first investor in EWOR, initially privately, right? You've also just followed up with a huge ticket with 4P Capital. And
Correct.
the exciting news, we are sharing the post actually in the chat. So for all of you, if you want to leave a like or comment, let us know, because we've just published today that we raised 3.2 million. And Xavier has been the very first person believing in us and making all of this happen. And I think that really describes his character. He has a special talent for spotting, people very early that are very driven and backs them. And he's done some incredible investments, some way cooler ones than EWOR. And we can talk about that in a second. And that is, Xavier is an investor. Before he invested, he built 3 companies, sold one of them to Hirschen Group, which is, so we will talk a little bit more about it, but one of the biggest, like advertising agencies in Europe, and served there in the board. And most recently built, 4P Capital, which is an impact fund that invests in, impact-related topics in, like pre-seed, seed, and in very rare cases, Series A. But Xavier will also talk a little bit more about that in a second. So I've already shared why this is a special moment today. We've just raised, right, and we're here with our very first investor. It couldn't be a better timing. But Xavier, why don't you give a little bit more detail about yourself and introduce yourself very quickly, and then we're going to jump into a bunch of questions.
Sure. Thank you so much for introducing this, Daniel. And let me share the love and the pride, first of all, of being the first investor and angel in EWOR, and feel totally appreciative of you letting me in and be part of the journey too. It's been an amazing journey to date, and I think with us as a fund now signing into this seed round, we couldn't have timed it better. So we always do this for the webinars for the startups that we believe in, right? We just announced the round just before the large webinars, so everybody gets hugely excited, and we have a huge PR going on around the webinars. No kidding, but it's a nice coincidence. And believe us, Daniel and myself have been a bit, let's say, in the trenches today to manage all the PR around this announcement, because it's hugely exciting to be really at the back of what we call the answer, the European answer to Y Combinator, right? So you all should really look at EWOR as this. And yeah, again, a huge round of applause to you guys at EWOR for raising this round, for bringing in so many cool people to support the ecosystem, the European ecosystem of startups that we truly believe in. So much for the advertising. Now back to advertising me, I guess. And I think I'm invited to speak a bit about my entrepreneurial journey and let you guys know where I came from and where I am today. So my name is Xavier. I'm in my mid-40s. I'm a father of 2 kids. They're now 2 boys, and 7 and 4 years old. French, born in Germany, went to an international school. And to be honest, was supposed to study mechanical engineering, physics, math, and business somewhere abroad, but my life led me a little differently. So while I was finishing up high school, I started a first agency, a promotional and events agency, and that led me on a path of being entrepreneurial from very early on. So I'm reaching my 47th year of age pretty soon, and it's been close to 30 years, so I'll have an anniversary to celebrate. So I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, and as I was explaining, I founded agencies of all sorts. So from promotions to events to advertising to integrated marketing to strategy to digital marketing, to ecosystem marketing, to you name it. And at the end, we were around about 200 people big, and I was able to sell it to the 3rd largest agency in Germany that also belongs to WPP, which in turn is the largest network worldwide. I also had a stint in the .com era. So in 2006, I decided I really want to leave this agency world. So that's where I decided for the first time, and founded a luxury online travel agency in 2006, which we got funding, a lot of funding for at that time, and then went live in June 2008. And if you guys remember, June 2008, it was a financial crisis that was introduced by Lehman Brothers, and selling luxury travel online just 8 weeks post this financial crisis wasn't really hip and chic, so we couldn't find our target group. The product market fit was bust in a day. So what did we do? Back in the days, it was called saving your ass. Today, this is called pivoting, but we did it back then. So what we did, we pivoted then into what we were able to do, i.e. building a large agency. And we scaled that for 10 years, and then we're able to sell it. But to be very frank, I was always a little frustrated by the non-scalability of the service business, by the everlasting deteriorating, let's say, nature of the advertising agency business model. You know, when I founded the first agency in the 90s, it was super and uberly cool. So it was like building startups in the last 15 years. But by now, the agency model really is a very hard business model to work in. So being frustrated by this non-scalability, but having the duty, the responsibility to take care of my people, and we were a growing team up to 200 people, I was really saying to myself, okay, let's continue working on this until I'm able to sell it, but I will start investing into tech startups in the meantime. So I started investing as an angel. First of all, a little agnostically, with all the mistakes that angels can do at the beginning, being more fond about the project and about the team, not understanding the market correctly, not understanding dynamics correctly, thinking that doing one angel investment will make me a billionaire, etc. But you learn very quickly that that's not the case. But I learned.
I really hope that one of your angel investments actually will.
Well, I know that now. I know that one will, and it will also return the fund at 4P Capital, and it will lead to many more things, Daniel. And this certainly is EWOR. But yeah, aside from that, I think by now I also pick better. That's the next thing. So hopefully by now it's a few more that will turn us all into very wealthy, but also very impactful people. But let me get to impact in a second. So I was realizing through the course of my journey that advertising and sales is a key lever to early stage investing, because a lot of the entrepreneurs that I met were very good at building a team, very good at building this product, but they think about developing the marketing and sales muscle way too late on their journey. And that really means that if you can apply this marketing and sales knowledge earlier, you can find product market fit earlier, you can scale up faster, you can shorten your sales cycles, you can just become a way more valuable company earlier on. So with that in mind, when I sold my agency to this large agency group, I said, hey, that's my way out. I'm going to build a corporate venture capital arm of the agency that invests marketing and sales services for equity and cash. And so we did. And we did that for a year. And then my shareholders came back and said, Xavier, this is hugely innovative. We win every pitch for the reason. However, an agency model is based on short-term cash flow and not on long-term investing gains. Can you please go back and buy up agencies and restructure teams, and i.e. that means firing lots of people, and win pitches? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And again, a frank story from myself. I had attended a Tony Robbins seminar in the June of 19, where I had decided I'm going to leave the agency industry and I will continue with what I feel my purpose is, i.e. investing into startups and being entrepreneurial and being with entrepreneurs and raising the entrepreneurial ecosystems. So I left in October 19, and I had a bit of a pivot to purpose moment, as I like to call it. So I looked my boys in the eyes, they were 4 and 1, and asked myself, so what's next? And I came to the realization that I had spent close to 3 decades helping, chips companies I'm not going to name sell more chips, or shampoo companies I'm not allowed to name sell more shampoo bottles, or car manufacturers sell more cars. But we're in the heart of this environmental and social crisis that's looming, that's coming, that's there. And did I really want to tell my kids in 30 years' time that it's just continued being commercial and helping large corporates sell more products that the world might need, might not need? I decided, no, that's not going to be it. I want to create more impact. I want to have more positive impact on the world. I want to continue investing. I want to do it at large scale. I want to apply marketing and sales to early stage investing. So selling an agency is a great exit, but I'm not a tech billionaire. So I have the duty to raise more cash around me. So I decided to build an impact asset manager, which I call 4P Capital. And we started with a first fund that we call Resilience One, which is about investing into early stage startups, pre-seed, seed tickets, 250K to 1.5 million in what we call resilience. Environmental resilience being CO2 reduction, so carbon reduction, and the circular economy models, and the social resilience based on the thesis that we need to become different humans to face the challenges that we're facing. So we need to become more resilient. We need to build a better mental health, which entrepreneurs are kind of set out to do. And we need to educate everybody with regards to sustainability. So that starts with scholastic education, over academic education, up to corporate upskilling, and naturally entrepreneurial education. And that's one of the main reasons why I have been, and we as a fund have been, a very dedicated and completely convinced investor at EWOR. And this is not doing an advertising loop. This is seriously like our conviction, because you guys are building that platform for the entrepreneurship of today and tomorrow based on impactful ventures. Daniel and I have been now friends for a bit longer already, and we are also sharing our involvement in what is called Sigma Squared Society, which I'm sure you can read about when you look into Daniel's profiles. Daniel has been instrumental as a president in building the European chapter and then the worldwide community around Sigma Squared, and has invited me first as an advisor, and now I have joined him on the supervisory board of this community, which I think next to EWOR is the other, I would say, platform of very, very talented entrepreneurs worldwide that are out there to create change. I also act as a member of NGOs, namely AIMS Foundation, which is Africa's most endangered species, where we take care of biodiversity in Africa, and another organization called Pfefferminz Green, which takes care of sub-Saharan welfare. So I'm on the social and environmental front there. And next to 4P Capital as a fund, I have now invested in close to 30 startups as a business angel. They're a bit more agnostically, so not just impact. And Daniel and I share some of these investments, which is great to be doing too. Otherwise, privately, I do calisthenics, I do Kung Fu, I meditate, I'm a biohacker, and try to reverse age as much as I can. Maybe that's my midlife crisis, but it's a great fun hobby to have. And I love cooking and the arts and traveling. So trying to find as much time as I can. So much for the intro.
Awesome. Before we go into the next steps, what's your metabolic age?
My metabolic age is 29.
29, not bad. Yeah, I know some people who have an older metabolic age. For you, it's
well, you know, with having you as a friend, it's hard because you're so fit and you're still much younger than I am. So it's like I need to keep up with you. Yeah?
It's easier to stay fit in younger ages. Right, so I think the more impressive thing is definitely with you. But to go into the next couple of steps, as you guys know, we already have over 200 people here. Really cool to see, and you guys ask the questions, right? I'm seeing that some of you ask questions already. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, ask those questions to Xavier. If it gets too many questions, then I will just look at all of the questions, copy and paste them simultaneously, and ask the ones that are a little bit more frequent, that seem to be of most interest. But all of you, please use the chat to just ask questions. I will see them there simultaneously and moderate the entire session, because this session is for you. It's for you to learn something from successful entrepreneurs, from investors. And this is why we're doing this, right? To give you, as we call it online, a glimpse into the ecosystem. Obviously, you do this almost on a daily basis once you've joined EWOR. And that's exactly the goal, to give you a feeling of this. Also keep in mind that after this webinar, we will talk again about the programs. So we will talk about the terms, the structure of the program, what happens, your application. So all those questions you can ask afterwards. Today is really about Xavier, his experiences and his advice. And I already have the first question here, Xavier.
Yep.
Someone is asking, what are the 3 most important factors that contributed to you being a successful entrepreneur?
That's a great question. Belief. So believing in what I'm being given by universe, God, whatever you guys want to call that, and believing in what I feel is right within myself, and believing in myself. And I had a long time to understand what believing in yourself really means. So it's not just like self-inducing all the time. I'm good, I'm great, I'm good, I'm great, I'm good, I'm great. But it's actually really visualizing, understanding, and having this natural force of this is going to happen within you, and then making determination count. I think determination is probably the next one. Perseverance, persistence, discipline, and not this discipline, i.e., I need to force myself through this, but just staying on it despite all the setbacks you're getting. For as long as you believe in your mission, just continue. Just never stop, never stop, never stop, and things will fall together. It's actually more than 3, but I would say 3 is meditation. Having time to think. Some people call it thinkation. So you can meditate or think or do this both at the same time. Take time to think. It's not just hustling, and never kind of taking the approach from the above and kind of looking down on the stuff you do. Whether you journal, whether you take time to think, whether just time with yourself, letting it sink and meditating and putting your head to rest and bringing your intuition back is very, very important. And I'm just going to add a few more. I think serendipity. So being open for serendipity to happen and sensing what's happening outside and the chances you're getting. And maybe you need to uncover them a little bit, but being aware of these serendipitous chances. And 5th, and this was not in order of ranking, is the people you meet. So surrounding yourselves with the right mindsets, with the right people, with the right energy. Sometimes you got to even let go of some people that are not providing you with the right energy. But choose your people and your surroundings wisely and constantly learn. Learn from people, find challenges, find challenging people. Don't just rub yourself with people that love you and kind of say, hey, you're amazing. You need to rub yourself with people that say, I disagree. I don't like what you're doing. I think you should get better at doing A, B, C, D, E, right? So getting that critical feedback from your environment, I think, is hugely pivotal to what you do. And then a few more, my family. So they've been driving me for the last 10 years very heavily. Clearly, that's only 10 out of the 30 years that I've been going at it as an entrepreneur, but that has given me a new sense of purpose and will and drive. And lastly, but certainly not least, is a bit of craziness. You gotta love it and gotta go for it and be a bit nuts. But why not be nuts? In that one lifetime you have, at least. I mean, you can believe in reincarnation, but I think in that one state of consciousness we have at the moment, at least we cherish this one life, and I'd rather be a little nuts in that one life I have than not being that.
I love it. And knowing you really well is, also knowing it's a very positive sense of being nuts. I've also been the negative in some others. But you're balancing this super well. And, a couple of people wanted to know, how do you measure your metabolic age?
Oh, wow. So that's a great question for today. How do you measure it? So you can actually measure it through a fitness test. You do a fitness test, and it's a breathing test, and the way that your heart basically responds to how heavy you breathe and how your breath frequency occurs with your heart frequency and how easily you then recover, plus some of your, let's say, muscle density and muscle ratio to your water ratio and your muscle to fat ratio and your bone density. All of that combined gives you a ratio on how to calculate the nature of your metabolism, how much you burn, et cetera, et cetera. But it's easy to do that. You just go to your doctor.
Yep. Cool. So now we have a couple more startup and investment related questions. The first one, or the first ones, are really evolving around, as an experienced investor, what do you look for? And some people ask more about what do you look for in a founder? And others ask more around, what do you look for in general? So let's maybe do a split. Let's say, there's things you like about the business and the business case, and things about the founder. Maybe you can give us a couple of explanations of what you're looking for both of those.
Sure. It's quite easy, actually, because we can go into the brand name of our fund or of our asset manager and go through the brand name, and that will explain it quite clearly. The 4P stand for a few things, right? And they stand for pioneering founders, for example. So that's the 1P, pioneering founders. We're looking for pioneers. We look for people that are ready to change the world. We are looking for people that are trying to go for new alleys. We are looking for people that say YC is not enough. We got to build something like this in Europe, right? And even better than that, we got to go new ways. So pioneers, we want that spirit of pioneers. The second that we look for is pivotal business ideas, things that can change the world. We also, when we kind of ask ourselves the questions, say, will this be completely game-changing? Is this a global game changer? Can this be a global game changer? Will this create a new dynamic in a full market? Will it create a new societal impact? Can it better the nature? Can it better the environment, but at a global scale? And that's really hard to identify. But this is what we look for, not just because it's going to be a fund returner, et cetera, and for the financial return, but we truly believe that we are investing not only our investors' monies and our family's money into this, but we are investing our lifetimes. As an investor, you spend 10 or more years with a team, and you will be spending 10 or more years on this endeavor. You're spending your lifetime. So why not spend it on something that is truly pivotal to the world and truly game-changing? So that's what we really look for. I'm not saying that every investor looks at businesses like this, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be businesses that also think in more narrow markets, and these are very viable businesses, but we look for these global game changers. We look for persistent mindsets, and it's something that I'm coming back to when you asked me about, what are the rules of success for entrepreneurship. Persistence is one of the key success factors in being a successful founder. If you are not persistent, if you're not willing to push through that valley of death that we all read about, know about, etc., you will not succeed. There are so many setback moments. There are so many moments when the entire world is saying, this is a shit idea, you will not succeed. But you need to say, despite all of that, no, this is a great idea, I will show you all. And you continue 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 until that serendipity kicks in, and you continue until the right setup is there, until the stars align. You just continue, you continue without the hesitance of a doubt. And that's something that we look for in founders, to have these mindsets. And EWOR and us use similar methodologies that have been developed by Daniel to identify these mindsets. And the fourth, which is kind of specific to us as 4P Capital, is the purposeful mission. We want to have founders that are aligned to our impact vision, that are aligned to our theory of change as an impact company, as an impact fund, and that are dedicated to creating societal or environmental impact in a positive way, in lockstep with their financial returns. So that's where we put special attention as a fund. And I would say, as an investor, also as an angel investor, I want to invest into things that, are fun to work on, are challenging, are intellectually challenging, and that can create a huge value for a large amount of people. Because, I'm not out there to invest into the next delivery company, into the next this, into the next that. Those companies are built. Those companies are out there. It's okay to find opportunities in these markets. I think, there is a market for that. But I'm interested more in finding intellectually challenging companies and missions to create value for a huge amount of people.
We have a couple of really interesting questions today, and I'm kind of, figuring out.
I'll try to be shorter on my answers.
Yeah, but there's also some value in, going into depth. So you decide how you want to navigate this. I see benefits in both, answering a smaller number of questions in a lot of depth, and answering a couple more. But brother, that's up to you how you want to handle it. I already want to say we will jump around a little bit. I will, struggle to keep this in a huge, storyline. So I will jump around as well. And one person is asking a very interesting question, because I see this, first of all, with both of us, secondly, with lots of other founders. And the question is, how do you manage to focus on just one thing and work on it? I have multiple interests as well. It's very difficult to manage my time and spend time in all of them. So how do you focus on this one thing and make this possible?
Oh my God. So I think Daniel and I have jointly invented the let's have the time for 2 lifetimes at the same time method. That helps. Become ultra efficient in how you manage your time and just ultra efficient in how you work and etc. I must say I don't focus on only one thing. I have probably 2 or 3 things that I focus on. One is the fund. 2 is a company that Daniel and I have also co-built and co-invested in called New Now. And there are several other things that I need to put attention to. However, my secret to it is momentary focus. So when I set out to do that one thing, I do that one thing. So I set out time to say, okay, I need to focus on this one thing for, let's say, 100 hours a month, because I know this is going to drive it. And then I try to really extinct everything else when I have these 100 hours dedicated to this one thing. Now, I don't have 100 hours at one time. I have them separately, but I am quite anal with regards to my schedule and how I set out the times in that schedule, and I constantly readjust my schedule. So I think spending some time and some regular time on planning my week, on planning my month, on planning my month in plural, on planning my year has helped me a lot, balancing out the time that I need. And I'm very cautious about how I structure my day. So sometimes you can get lost in calls and maniasm, but what I do is I focus parts of my morning, I dedicate my mornings to working, to deep work without any calls, without any emails, without anything else. I turn off everything. And when I've got stuff to be done, I do it in those hours. And I really pay attention as to how my biochemistry works during the day so I can get my head to focus. I really take care of my glucose levels so I don't get brain fogged. And, you know, these are the things that help me actually get focused. I don't think that you really need to just focus on one thing, but I would recommend being multi-focused a little more down your entrepreneurial journey. At the beginning, you should. If you're launching your first venture, do just one, because you will otherwise get sidetracked and you will kind of procrastinate between the two. You will say, this seems like the better thing to do today because this didn't feel so good to do. And you'll still feel busy. You can be busy with a lot of things, right? You can keep yourself busy and you'll feel busy and you think you're hustling and you're doing your hustling, but you won't get the success you want. You get the success you want by actually saying, hey, instead of feeling hunted by my lifetime and feeling I don't have enough time to get everything done, if you focus on this one thing for the first 2 or 3 years, instead of trying to push on 5 things at the same time in 3 years, you'll see that within those 3 years, you'll achieve way more. And you'll get to a place where then you'll feel more comfortable in starting that second thing. And then I'll finish with a quote by Richard Branson, who says, opportunities are like buses. They come around the corner every 5 minutes. And that is the case. And I think you always say that, Daniel, but you're quoting, what's his face? The
Ray
guy,
Dalio.
Ray Dalio, right? That you say it.
Yeah, so you can achieve anything, but not everything. I think that's the quote you were referring to.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
I get you.
If you keep both in mind, right, you can have a lot of opportunities coming down the road. And hey, to be frank, I wanted to be a cameraman. I wanted to be a director. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a physicist. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be a math pro. I wanted to be lots of things. And maybe I'll still be. So that's why I'm on a longevity game, to have enough time to do it. But now as an investor, I can be all of these things because I'm diving into all of these different companies, right? So just be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. And once you've met your purpose, you're not going to have a hard time focusing.
I love that. It's super important to invest that time into exploration and actually finding out, right? To later on streamline that exploitation part. Yeah. Looking into the other questions. So I'm just gonna go, by chronological order now. Okay. So the next one I have here is, what's the most ridiculous thing you have faced in any industry you were working on?
Yeah, I like that one. So Sayed has also posted that to me on LinkedIn, using every channel possible. the most ridiculous fact I have faced in the industry I was working on.
Yeah, and like I think the question is aiming like the next thing is true approach to find out such facts to catch as an entrance opportunity. So it's like ridiculous thing as in a venture opportunity. This is how I'm getting the question. So like maybe
I'll interpret it a little bit. So I mean, look, I invest into impact companies and especially also into entrepreneurial impact, and there are sorry, I swear when I get emotional. There are so many, so many different facts out there that are ridiculous, right? So one is the amount of refugees we will be having in 2050, 1 billion worldwide. 1/10 of the population in 2050 will be commuting on the planet as refugees because of climate crisis, wars, water, etc. Right? So that's a very, very ridiculous fact that I have encountered that drives me into trying to find solutions that are enabling displaced people to find new jobs, find new opportunities, etc. There are many other facts. If you just look into the plastics industry, how much plastic we're putting into our oceans, 1% of our bodies are by now microplastics. Look into the climate facts. I mean, there are so many ridiculously big facts that drive you into forming companies and that show you opportunities. I think it's a good driver, though, Sayed, to like go via this and kind of find opportunities through this statistics finder. Use ChatGPT to find more.
Sorry, I'm copy and pasting your answers and simultaneously trying to unmute myself. So I just found a really good one. Let me ask that straight away. Someone is asking, what do you feel is the importance of Ikigai and founders? And then there's explanation of what Ikigai is. I know you know it as well, but just, a very quick recap. You love it, you're good at it, you earn money with it, and the world needs it. I'm personally a huge fan of the Ikigai, but I'd be pretty interested in your opinion.
Well, your intro to the question is almost rhetorical by itself. However, we are completely aligned. I wouldn't have built an impact asset manager if I was not completely under the belief that's the case. And when you heard me early on about finding your purpose, being true to your purpose to find focus, etc., and the huge opportunities we're looking for, why, if you're going at it anyway, why not do something you love? Why not do something that the world needs? Why not do something that you can earn money with, etc.? I mean, yes, that's completely where you should be. That's that magic quadrant. That will give you energy every day, and that will make you be persistent.
I love it. How many times did you fail before you had your first big success?
I mean, the funky thing is, I'm grateful for everything that's happened to date. But if you asked me if I already had my breakthrough success, I would still say no. Simply because every time there's a new challenge and you want to reach that and you want to get to the next. And my challenge is to like create the most possible positive impact on the world and creating this new form of investing. I would say I failed many times. I don't know. I didn't count. I think failure is part of that game, right? So I'm not sure how you define failure. So my first company went bust. If that's a failure, yes. I'm not sure. I always said it's the best MBA you can do. So I failed many times. I still fail. I fail every day. I fail every week. Failing is part of growing. So you win or you learn. That's how the thing works.
Then a question about obstacles as well. So can you please tell us what kept you going when things were not working according to your plan? When you were investing many hours of work and not getting the results you wanted, what kept you going during those moments?
When I was younger, it was vacation time. I didn't know why. I was so in it and working and being frustrated and then vacation time that I'd booked came up and we went on vacation. I was having even a bad conscience to go on vacation now because of all of this work that's left behind. But funnily enough, things resolved and things changed. And then I came back and I was relaxed and I had new thoughts and I was newly inspired and I could hit it again. But I didn't realize why. And now, being just a little bit older and maybe a bit wiser, meditation is the game. And it's the same thing. It's micro vacations. You need to trust. I know it's hard to understand this, but please get on this journey. You need to trust your journey. You need to trust that things will fall into place. And sometimes you just need to let go. Sometimes letting this problem sit there and the rest will unfold. Just let it unfold. Do what you can do. Focus on what you can influence. Discard what you cannot influence. And just don't get into the energy of frustration. If you're frustrated, okay, accept you're frustrated. Go out, have a beer, have whatever, or don't drink alcohol if you're not into alcohol, but go have some fun, go have some party time, dance, go hug a friend, go spend time with loved ones, go play with your kids, go play tennis, do whatever you, just relax for a moment and let your mind rest. Because, I mean, when do you get the best ideas? Let me tell you, under the shower, when you're in the other bathroom, when your mind is focused on something else or not focused at all, that's when your inspiration comes. So that's the trick. That really is the trick.
Getting so many interesting questions. I'm kind of tempted to just take the newer ones, but I'm gonna go back a little bit, make sure that we're gonna ask the ones that happened earlier as well. So have you ever invested in an entrepreneur who was older than you? I can clearly say yes, but what about you?
Yes, I have. Not often, but that's just a matter of our. So, are you referring to my biological age or to the metabolic? But yeah, I have. Hang on, twice, and funnily enough, hang on, I need to go through all the investments. No, I think 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. Twice in the legal tech industry when I was still doing
that many investments that you take a while to...
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest, but I know of 3 where I've done it. 2 were in very institutional or very formal industries. That was the legal industry, so those people had had certain sector experience, and that those were earlier angel investments I've done. Most of the investments I've done now are in younger people, but we also actually will announce a portfolio investment of 4 Ps where the founder is older than me, but not a lot, a few years.
Awesome.
Anyway, I like older founders. Yeah? So maybe to say that, maybe the question was asked by somebody who's older than me. I would invest into a 60-year-old in a heartbeat if that person is on the right mission and has all the factors that I listed before. I don't care about age. My father was 66 when I was born, right? So to me, it's no difference. The age is not the matter. What's inside matters.
What are your most important takeaways from an upside down point of view? So kind of meaning in terms of challenges, obstacles, blockages you faced. What are your most important takeaways there?
Just on the downsides or also on the upsides?
On the downsides.
The downsides. Well, first of all, you win or you learn is that one big takeaway. Like every downside is just another learning opportunity. And this is not a self-help talk right here. It is the truth. You can ask any successful person. I mean, ask Daniel how many downsides he's faced since the last 10 years that he's been building ventures. He has faced a lot of downsides. Is he a happy person? Yes, he's a happy person. Has he built successful things? Yes, he has. Right? So on that way, every downside has just been a signal. Hey, you might just be on something where you need to learn right now. Look at it. Don't feel like you don't, this is a failure and you don't feel well about your self-confidence or whatever. This is just so, and I know it's hard. I mean, I really felt frustrated in a lot of situations, but by now I can say, at least when I have that feeling of something is like there's an obstacle, there's a challenge, or even something where I just can't change it, I know for a fact I just need to rest for a moment. I need to see it as I need to see it as a learning opportunity. And when I take that angle on it, I will extract knowledge that will help me be 10x better and 10x faster the next time I try it, right? So it's just a 10xing. Other challenges or obstacles, wrong people in wrong moments. And this is back to surrounding yourself with the right people. You need to surround yourself with the right people. Never say yes to people where you don't feel the energy is right, even if you think this is your last straw, this is your last opportunity. It's not. Saying no to somebody where you don't feel the energy is the absolute right thing to do in no matter what situation. And if you think it's your last opportunity, it definitely isn't. So those would be my two large takeaways.
I'm learning so many things about you today. People also pointed out that you have 18 skills on LinkedIn. So just as a
I have 18 skills on LinkedIn, honestly?
You have 18 skills on LinkedIn. Yeah, did you know that? Now you do.
No, I don't.
Next question.
Maybe I'm just showing off for something that's not real. Hang on.
Other people show you off because they are the ones driving your skills, right?
Okay. All right.
And other people give you the
skills. I didn't
skills.
know that. That's awesome. Okay. 18? Oh, 80. Okay, 80. Yeah, I have 80 endorsements. Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. That's very cool. I gotta respond to these.
Yeah, and another question in your entrepreneurship journey at critical junctures. Wait, I jumped over one. In the discovery stage, to validate the problem and the solution your company created, what was a tipping point that helped you to know you had a company that could be viable? Very good question.
Sorry, I got sidetracked. Once more, I was looking at the endorsements now.
Yeah. So, what was the tipping point when you validated companies until you knew actually that the company is viable? When you were in the customer discovery validation phase?
In my own ventures?
Yeah.
The moment that we were receiving inbound requests is when I knew it. So for as long as we were doing outbound sales, yes, we were, of course, creating revenue. But the moment the market was coming at us saying, we want you to be part of our supplier network, we want to work with you, we heard about this thing you're doing, about ABC you did for the others, when this, not even word of mouth, when people heard about our services in some way or had read about it in the press and realized these guys do something different to others and this could be very valuable to us. When people from the outside recognized the value we could deliver, that's the moment when I really knew, now we hit it.
Great one. Then next one in the in your entrepreneurship journey, now the one from just earlier, at critical junctures, can you elaborate on your process of how you identify a challenge and separate it from a blockage?
Oh, God, you guys are good. You've read a lot about entrepreneurship, I guess, which I never did, or not early enough, put it that way. So, hey, I mean, I think a blockage or a challenge remains a challenge for as long as you're willing to accept it as a challenge. A blockage only becomes a blockage when you lack the persistence to continue working on it, to trying to find a workaround, to trying to find another way. Or when you simply come to the realization that an alternative scenario is equal or better than continuing on that scenario. And then it remains a blockage, but then you found an alternative, so it's not really a blockage. I hope I'm being clear, but blockages are in your mind. Anything's possible. But the question is, are you willing to sacrifice other things to work on the solution for as long as might be needed to surmount it and only see it as a challenge? But sometimes you need to say, I have 10 opportunities to choose from. I really am fond of this one opportunity. However, there's been a challenge that's continuously been there, and I was not able to find a way to overcome the challenge. But I've got these 9 other opportunities that are slightly less good. But if I take one of these opportunities, I might be 3 times faster than with this one. So at some points, it becomes a function of, I guess, what produces the best outcome. And then quality of opportunity times speed of delivery equals window of opportunity and size of opportunity. And then you just need to choose which outcome you want to have and what you're ready to deliver in terms of your energy, your time, your life energy, and your persistence.
Love it. Really learning a lot today as well, not just from your skills on LinkedIn. And we've got another really good one. There's a question about the friends and family financing stage. Mm-hmm. The person who asked this question is very convinced this is the most difficult, phase. When you have traction, you can just raise from VCs, but pre-traction, like when there's basically just an idea, friends and family financing, like how do you get through that phase to get to the traction phase where you can actually raise money? And having been at all of those stages, I'm not sure if I agree, but I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts, and potentially you do. And if you do, we could have a quick discussion, because I think that will make it really interesting. And if not, we move on to the next question.
Well, I mean, look, it really depends on what you're building, how you're building it. So first of all, get a big family. So if you don't have a big family, like just get adopted. I don't know. No, kidding. I don't think that friends and family are the right circle of people to get early stage investing from. You will potentially fail at what you're building very quickly. And I would rather try to get this early money from professional investors that know what they're doing. And I'm not talking about VCs, I'm talking about angel investors and the likes, because they know how to diversify their money and they will invest in you as one of their 30, 40, 50, 60 investments, and therefore know that you might fail. Your family, your friends will not know that you might fail. They will invest in you because they utterly believe in you. And that will put so much pressure on you, which might also be good, I know. However, you will have a lot of emotional pressure to deliver on your company. Therefore, I would only get that money once I've already gotten through a certain stage and I'm getting to a seed stage. And then I would allow the family and the friends to invest into the venture to be part of that journey. So that's my belief. And then probably, Daniel, you and I share the vision, unfortunately, so it'll be hard to discuss, but I do think it's not that hard to get funding from the market. I think if you have an amazing idea, if you have built a great team, if you're on that great mission, people are willing to take the risk, and you will find them. You just need to get the right exposure and build like visibility of your startup.
I wholeheartedly agree. I've also never taken family money for any of my ventures. I think it's a step you can skip, and afterwards it gets really hard, especially like if you've raised from investors pre-product market fit, and then you have to go through that valley of death until you have product market fit, and it can't be too late. Need enough funding, enough runway. I think that's the hardest part. Afterwards, it's scaling, but it depends on skill, right? Some people are just really good at taking something, scaling it. Other people are just really good at navigating this chaos. So no clear answer. Anyway, so many more questions and only 10 more minutes. So let me pick a couple of interesting ones. How do you manage to find the right people to drive your companies forward?
How do I find the right people?
Yeah.
Sorry. No. So is this collaborators, like team members, or do you think it's entrepreneurs? Probably team members, huh?
I think it's team members, possibly investors and stakeholders. Feel free to go into each of those.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, get out there, right? So mingle and jingle. You can't find these people just from sitting in your office and typing away on your PowerPoint or your Excel sheet or in your lab. You need to find circles that you would not naturally go into. So just staying in your natural environments will not help. You need to expand those environments. You need to go into, you need to go to events, to community events, to join new communities, you know, to be exposed to people that are diverse. And I don't necessarily mean by origin, by gender, or by age, but diverse from a skill set perspective, from a view perspective, from different ecosystems. Get out of what they call the comfort zone, right? So if you feel a little scared to go into, I don't know, an online marketing festival with 70,000 people in Hamburg, for example, the OMR, I'm not trying to make anybody, I'm not trying to make any advertisements, but that's an event where you'll meet loads of people, right? Loads of ecosystem, and then be ready to talk, engage, meet people, approach them. People are way less cautious of networking than one thinks. It's always, especially if you're a little introverted, you'll be like, oh, I'm not sure how to approach this person. And all you have to do is say, hello, my name is Xavier. Who are you? And then you start, and then you can ask a quirky question, something like, hey, what's the latest book you've read? And what was your biggest learning? And then you'll get into a talk, right? And then things evolve. And then you say, hey, I wanted to tell you about the company I'm building. What are you doing? And after 10 seconds, you'll know whether this is a click or not, and you move on. You have to meet loads of people to select. There are 7-point-something billion people on this planet. The funnel is big.
Let me have a look.
That wasn't a very detailed answer, but I think that's a
Yeah,
first.
but we want to come to some of those questions. The last one. So let's look into the next one. This is a really good one because it really goes into a key issue you addressed with 4P. How could a company with a non-profit philosophy, not necessarily a non-profit legal structure, approach the issue of funding?
A non-profit philosophy with a for-profit legal structure.
Apparently, they're saying not necessarily non-profit legal structure. So I assume, that's probably for-profit.
Yeah. To me, it's clear. You're either non-profit or you're for-profit. Don't try to mix up both. It's just, it doesn't work. What you can do is have a for-profit entity and a non-for-profit entity, and the for-profit entity donates to the non-for-profit and enables the non-for-profit, or the non-for-profit becomes a shareholder in the for-profit. You can do these types of scenarios, but the mission you're on is either for-profit or non-for-profit. Otherwise, you will be attracting a very conflicting crowd of people, both from a mission perspective for your team as well as investors. Impact investing, yes, comes from philanthropy, but has now become a term that is used, especially in venture capital, as a for-profit, for-purpose type of investing. So financial returns are in lockstep with the impact you're creating. Separate the both. Short answer.
I fully agree. But what I have the feeling is that many people just connect non-profit with impact in a binary way. And I think that binary connection doesn't exist, right? You can be for-profit and make impact. You can be for-profit, not make impact. You can be non-profit, not make impact, and non-profit make impact. The two are separate. And I really like the impact language you're using, and not necessarily the non-profit for-profit. It's a legal thing. Done. Cool. Let's look into unique takeaways you've had on a specific industry or market that is currently overhyped or underhyped.
I mean, Daniel, you and I look into AI a lot, yeah, but I think AI is overhyped. I think, yes, AI is the most transformative technology that we will see or are seeing, and it will change the way the society works, etc., and will change the nature of work. But as with many of these things, I think it's overhyped because a lot of people are jumping on it and are just using it as a bandwagon and misuse AI, misuse ML, machine learning, data science, these terms to create buzz around their ventures. So that's something where I feel overhyped. Clearly, the crypto parts, cryptocurrency market is an overhyped market for sure. Underhyped, from my perspective, is or are a lot of the social impact markets. So while environmental impact now has, its own hype, and climate tech is the new thing, and everybody wants to invest into climate tech because we know that we need to reverse climate change as much as we can, or combat it, or whatever we want to call it. But often the societal impact pieces are not seen as much. So for example, the refugee pieces or education, while EdTech, of course, is a huge market, but really transforming education, not just by digitizing it, but making it more inclusive, more accessible, more diverse, more geared towards the future. Those are things that we're not seeing enough, I feel. And another one that still is underhyped, and that's also why we're investing into it, is the mental health market. There are not enough applications, although it's a huge problem. Every fourth person on the planet has mental health issues, and it's increasing. And the market itself has not developed as much as we would want to see it. So that's a market where we feel there is a bit of an underhype. And there are many more.
We have time for 2 more questions. There's 2 left that I really wanted to ask.
Let's do it.
Cool. First one, how do you balance qualitative factors such as team excellence, long-term vision, competitive advantage, versus quantitative ones like financials or market size when you are investing in companies?
Okay. Easy. Financials, they're a lie anyway. They're a lie until you have closed your seed round, and even then they're still a lie. I think they start becoming truth around Series A, and even then they're still a lie because there are a lot of assumptions in there. So financials, yes, we look at them, but we look at them more for the planning purposes to see how you're envisioning to build a company, way more than we look at the actual financials, because there's nothing to really look at and proof. But we also look at kind of how big could this become. So it helps us kind of analyze the dynamics of the company, but not as much as in, is this making profit? And when exactly is it making profit? Yeah? Because that really doesn't matter at the pre-seed seed stages, because the business is going to pivot about 10 times before it actually gets the product market fit. Qualitative factors such as team excellence, and you mentioned it in qualitative, to me is quantitative a lot as well. And you know that you, Daniel, EWOR, we as a fund, we look into this quantitatively. We try to put up data models that help us to really quantitatively measure team excellence, single founder excellence, team diversity, team complexity, etc., team cohesion. To us, that's more quantitative than it's qualitative. But if you look at team excellence as a qualitative factor, it's the one factor that we look at a lot. We will look at market size for sure, because we want that global game change. And we will look at the dynamics of that market.
I love the argument you made about, like qualitative and quantitative blending at this point in time. I really believe there's something like entrepreneurial IQ.
Yeah,
it's not measured. We haven't yet perfectly, defined the methods for, retrieving that kind of data. But I think we're getting closer and closer, and it's super awesome to work on that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is exciting. And last question about another exciting thing, your portfolio. What are some examples of successful impact investments you've made? Can you give us some?
Yes. Although I can't disclose a lot of them yet from a fund perspective, but that was due to come. So just start following 4P Capital on LinkedIn. Here comes the advertising block, or myself if you haven't done so yet. So more than happy for you to reach out and connect. And we'll be announcing way more. But I can, of course, talk about a few. So I've made an investment into a company called 1.5, which transforms the plastic industry. It's the former CFO of Infarm, which was a very successful scale-up. And Martin and Claire are basically producing a platform where alternative plastics IP is being marketed to all the fast-moving consumer goods companies, and they are really massively scaling plastic alternatives. The other company that, from an investment point of view, has been a very successful one is Planetly, which was a carbon accounting company founded by serial entrepreneurs already, that was an exit within, I think, 19 months post-investing, created a 7x and a 350% IRR. So it was a really, really, really successful investment case. Unfortunately, from an impact case, it's something that then can happen. It was bought by a software company that then entered the tech crisis as we moved into inflation and the Ukrainian war, etc., and where then a divestment took place, and the entire team, unfortunately, of close to 200 people in Berlin was laid off. The software keeps on living, but the team was pulled apart. So, you know, that's also what can happen from an impact drift perspective, which you need to watch.
Awesome. We're perfectly on time. It's now 1 minute over time. I found that incredibly insightful. I hope the participants did as well. Hopefully. Let me very quickly check the chat for potentially some last questions. Will there be a recording? Yes, you can just go on our YouTube channel and then click on live, and you will find these kind of things. Other questions, you know, content-wise, we cannot answer anymore, but I really hope there was a glimpse into the EWOR ecosystem and the EWOR network. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us today, Xavier. It was really a blast. Have a beautiful rest of your day, you and all the listeners, and talk very soon. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Take care. Ciao.